are taking our kids every day. I shout them in and no one has a thing to say. For those who have been isolated, don't be worried, you have a voice today. So listen up everyone, here is the story. Child Protective Services is real. CPS is what they call it. They want our kids because it fills a lot of people's wallet. We all think it won't be us. We say when they come we will be so tough. It all sounds good when there's no one to take them. But when they come, your voice gets to breaking. Stay calm, step away. CPS ain't taking no one today. We are educated. Stay calm, step away. CPS, you need to leave. I know the tricks up your sleeve. You can't do what you're trying to do. We've done our homework. Don't do a damn thing without a warrant. You know the Lord will steal our kids this way. Tiff and the Punisher have come for the calling. They are giving us the CPS warning. Their voice is loud and clear. We stop losing our kids this year. Tiff wants to fight the entire planet. She is tired of our kids being taken, God damn it. She's been fighting CPS for 30 years, bringing children home from this disgusting mess. The Punisher is screaming out loud, abolish CPS and tear it down. I want all our kids to come back. Look at all those kids' pictures held up like thin tags. Together we are stronger than we need. We will tear down CPS with high speed. We will do so much being together. Birds of a feather flock together. So watch out CPS, here we come. Picking you one by one. We promise to bring back the family and prosecute the caseworkers unhandily. Give us back the kids you have taken. Tiff and the Punisher sending you all on a vacation. The one with bars in the windows and the only games you play are on Nintendos. Corruption in courts, here we come. We won't stop until it's done. You judges need to learn what you stand for. This is Tiff and the Punisher warrior, and we cry out to all of you out there. We need support for a cause that many don't care. All children are being stolen way too often. So CPS, we plan on doing the stopping. Stopping.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gunner. Welcome to Tiff and the Punisher, guys. Tiff tonight is not doing well. She's under the weather, so she's not going to be joining us. But in her lieu, I'm sure that none of you have a problem. Mr. Gunner sitting in. How are you doing tonight, Gunner?
Well, there's good days, there's bad days, but you know, no, one day at a time.
Hey, I know what those mugs are for. That's the type of day it's been. Oh. So what's
Ain't no
up,
sense
man?
thinking it any other way other than dealing with the amount of stupidity. I can tell you where our problems originated. When we
Yeah,
entered
well,
through
it's
the
not
natural
the
selection,
stupidity; it's the stress that these bastards put you under.
and we've slapped warning labels on stuff and threw common sense out the fucking window and let natural selection take its place.
Oh, you know what? If that was the truth and we could do that, we'd all be kings.
We've got more people alive today And think about that. That's including population control and everything else, just due to the fact that we've put on those warning labels, have not pushed for a better society. Instead, we dumbed it down, labeled everything, and trusted the government to decide what was safe and what wasn't safe for us. And basically, in so many people that's crying, yes, it's a great concept, but you forget personal accountability, which our country is based on personal accountability. Not somebody needs to. You need to figure the shit out your fucking self. That's what it comes down to.
Accountability is out the window, my friend.
Well, I mean, that's why we are where we are with organizations like CPS and some of the others is we've been uneducated. You know, we've had information hidden from us. We've been manipulated and all these other things. We just said, hey, here, take care of the problem instead of we, the people, take care of the problem. And it's none of the government's business.
It's like they put it on the shelf. You know what I'm saying? It's like we put these things on the shelf. We don't have to worry about this stuff. It's not our problem. They're going to handle it. And that's what's gotten the attitude about this. CPS is great. You know, GPS is doing its job. You know, that's the way people look at things. You know what I mean? Like, I know I used to. I always believed that CPS was good, doing the right thing for everybody. I always believed that CPS was, you know, because I was all Americana, buddy. You know what I mean?
Let's put it this way.
Blue, baby.
The scariest words in America you could ever hear was I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with we the people. If you don't believe me, FEMA and everybody else could have gotten the fuck out of the way. Private contractors or other organizations such as the Cajun Navy, the Appalachian people, and everything else could have done that better. And the West Virginia boys, shout out to them boys that built that road between there and Chimney Rock. And basically, engineers said it'll take weeks. They said, step the fuck out of the way and let me show you how it's done out here. This is our home turf. And that's what I think people forget to understand, even with what we deal with now with our Fourth Amendment rights, is we believe everything is shared or nobody actually owns anything and there's no respect for anybody. Personal property, you know, those type of things, stuff like that. This is my home. Don't come fucking around in my home. And that's where a lot of this is, you know, come down to is we've kind of softened up over the years. We've become comfortable. We've become entertained. You know, there's an old saying that hard times create hard people, hard men. Soft times create soft men and soft people. Well, we just went through the huge amount of, from the 80s, you know, 70s, 80s and on, mass surges in jobs and wealth and economy and all these other different things to where everybody feels so comfortable to, I'm now buying a house that has so much square footage, but it's not like it used to be. You think we're so far apart from a third world country? You used to cram as much as your family in your fucking house as possible.
These houses are wide open now. Wide open. You got a 3,000 square foot house with you and your wife. You don't know where your kids are. If you're lucky enough to even have kept your kids, it's crazy. Family doesn't exist anymore. The definition of family isn't as what it used to be. Family now is just a thing. It's like my family, my brother, not meaning like my brother, my heart. You know, like my. That's what family used to be, man. It's not.
Well, see, and this is where some of the laws too, Darren, it actually trips them up. Let me give you an example. If one thing that the courts are not used to dealing with, they're used to, if you're married, you usually have a marital home and you share it together. Both names are on the mortgage. You haven't taken into account of the divorce rate being so high and who retained the home, who did, and it's very maybe not heard of anymore, or very rarely of. Depends on the situation. The man retained the home, the woman retained the home, whatever it may be, they remarry. Then there's a lot of constitutionality that deals with that. Case law and everything else. Hey, this person has rights under this particular thing, but they also can't give up the rights to somebody else. In other words, say you own the home and your spouse lets somebody in the house, it's still your home. You were the one supposed to be notified, and it's your primary place of residence. Therefore, and there's a reason of protection behind that, guys, between land ownership, and they took advantage of that to get to women. Because if you're on the deed too, that means you have a legal right to allow them to come in or for them to coerce their way in. When you weren't on there, they didn't have the legal right. So that's one of the things that, like, our particular case is going to deal with is what it comes down to, because there's things called homestead rights. And, you know, those go back to common law. So regardless of who's in the house or anything else, it still comes down to you got to have permission to come in. Why? Because it's not a renter situation. Now, if you talk about money with rent or a lease, the law is a little bit different. But what do you do with a married couple where one owns the property and it wasn't during a marital? In other words, it's not considered a marital asset due to the fact that they were both there from the beginning. This person had a house prior to, we'll say, the particulars of that. What do you do with that? And the law is this is where a lot of judges can screw up and say, well, I'm going to remove you from the home. Well, that's kind of illegal because it's my home, motherfucker. And that's a Fourth Amendment violation when you do that. And especially when they do issues and they make it so easy for you to where, say, your CPS worker puts on a different address. Well, now the judge or magistrate has ruled you out of your own home, which is now considered a deprivation of rights under the color of law of seizing your property for the court's use. In other words, you're keeping somebody else in it, but I'm still responsible for the bill. I mean, the court took it from me, but I still got to pay everything. I mean, think about that for a minute, how crooked that shit is. So
that's almost some eminent domain shit, right?
Well, it doesn't really matter. A lot of it just comes down to the different laws between the homesteaders and everything else of who has it and who doesn't. But if the court says you can't enter your property or you can't reside, particularly here, which happens a lot in CPS, is somebody is removed from the home. That's a huge thing that it comes down to. Well, what if he's the only one and he's the one being removed and it's his house?
Right.
And say those aren't his kids. And you see the problem you've created because the law has been established that goes for people that under that scenario of they're married, they have kids together, they own a home together, but they're so lazy they don't assume to do a proper investigation to understand who has what. And when you can document it, there's the thing that you, like I say, when you go through stuff with CPS, unless you can end it, like I said, extremely early with some things of, especially saying fuck off. And even then you have to fight after you tell them fuck off. Those are involved and judges involved and everything else. And then you got to go to this and that. But when you turn around on and say, Your Honor, here's my notification of my hourly charge to the court. And they'll look at you, what the fuck are you talking about? You're looking at, I'm going to do this and we're going to do this right. But I also understand where your power ends. Your state judges can only do statutory law and code law. Basically, it's commercial law.
They're administrators. That's what they are.
Administrative law, which is also what it's called. They can invoke what's called civil penalties. In other words, they can garnish your check, charge you something, take away your kids, all these other things. That's why SEC versus Jarsky says if you have the power to do those things, you must have a trial by jury, which I wish people would take and get a hold of this and start challenging it. And here's the question. The lower court judge doesn't have the jurisdiction or the authority. This is a federal case ruling of constitutional rights. You can freeze your CPS case at any given time with a challenge to jurisdiction. In other words, you have to articulate it particularly. Let me give you an example. We have a question that arises within the particulars of this particular case that deal with constitutional rights or, constitutional rights issues. Those are not an issue to take and deal with. And this is why they don't want you to take it to civil court and they'll kick it back. But there's a different process in there where you can do a judicial review, a federal judicial review is what it is. And what they do is you ask the questions you need answered to the federal judge. You never go before the federal judge. You just send off the questions, quote what case law, what the understanding, and you're asking for the federal judge to define, according to its jurisdiction, what the federal outcome or decisions are based off of these questions. For example, if I had a person come in and give you an example, somebody, a CPS worker came in the house. Well, did not notify the property owner that it's the sole property owner, it's a premarital asset. Supposedly, we now come down to a he said, she said. She's saying she was coerced or he forced his way in, never asked the way to come in. And he says, no, she gave me permission. Your Honor, we need a Fourth Amendment constitutional rights, some clarification on this. on whether or not this is a violation of Fourth and 14th Amendment rights. The lower state court does not have the authority or jurisdiction to answer that question. And when they skip over it or they try to fast track you, it's because they want to get through it as fast as possible so you don't change jurisdiction on them. Because at any given time, you can challenge jurisdiction anywhere in your
always. Ever does that go away?
So you may be in the middle of a shitstorm and everything else, and all of a sudden, but see, most of your family attorneys don't know how to do this. And this is where this is fucked up for the fucking bar association. How can a local attorney not have the ability to file paperwork anywhere except for the state and not file in a federal courtroom? Did you know there's multiple different types of licensings for lawyers?
I didn't know. No, is there really? Well, what do you mean? There's separate licensings? Like they have to be business lawyer?
There are certain ones that can only practice within the state.
Right.
They're not allowed in federal court.
Right.
That is an extra or a different, I think, testing method or something.
Right.
I'm still looking down that rabbit hole.
I thought that there was something about that about the appeals attorneys too. Like appeal attorney is a whole separate attorney.
Yeah.
That it's not just. I thought that too, but then now these attorneys are just.
You have to declare yourself to the bar association and check which boxes you want to do. Say you want to do family law, wills, contracts, stuff like that. You go to somebody else that just deals with contract law or international business law, or or gas and oil. Gas and oil is its own field in law.
Right.
And that's all they practice. So the concept comes down to this, and these all work together in the court systems for both our good and our bad, is the way that we'll put that, because the things that they rule on specifically say that, you got to follow these guidelines. But see, the problem is they got into the commercial field of doing contract disputes for large corporations or say unions. They kind of mediate, and in a way we see this within unions and stuff, because there's a mediator brought in between whoever and the union and or the workers to come in. The mediator is kind of like your court systems. They're supposed to decide what's fair, what's just, and everything else, and whether or not it's a reasonable offer, or whether or not the other side is just being completely unreasonable. But coming back around to the judges and stuff, how they don't know how to rule, you can challenge that jurisdiction, because anything constitutional or federal has got to be answered by that court. That the lower court has no jurisdiction to even answer, which is why they push you through so fast. Because technically the lower courts should come through if there's no constitutional issues, which should be an issue brought up by the judge, because it's under their duty to protect the Constitution, and they have a sworn oath for it, which is a violation of their oath. If they saw that there was an issue, that and a good judge will do this, will say, you know what, guys, we need to stop. What I need from you is you need to take and give me a change of jurisdiction form, because I even have questions that I need answered. But I can't rule on this right now. Therefore, I need to stop presiding. You need to go answer these questions, kick it up to the higher court, get our answers, and then kick it back down is what they're going to do. That's how they deal with that properly.
Right, and there's multiple levels of jurisdiction too. There's subject matter jurisdiction. There's the actual physical location jurisdiction. I think there's actually five to seven.
5 or 7.
Yeah, type of jurisdictions.
So you have to determine what it is. So when you can articulate it to the court, Your Honor, I need a change of jurisdiction, and you have that sitting right there. Why? Because there are constitutional issues that this court has no authority or jurisdiction over, and the ability to answer these questions, which are pertinent to the very outcome of this case. Give you an example. Said person walks in, same scenario. Okay, comes in. They say he said, she said, this and that, and then you send that over to the judge. Your Honor, what do we do in this case? Is this a legal entry? I'm going to quote this particular case law, which is one of the ones we gave you guys, of saying, is it not true that unless you have a search warrant, which none was present, an emergency, which none of that's been documented either in a police report and or any kind of police report, or any kind of the social worker didn't take and call into the police department. No police officer ever showed that. That is protocol, national protocol. Police officer, no police officer showed up. Therefore, there was no call for backup, hence there was no emergency.
Right.
You're answering those questions in advance, okay, so they don't have a loophole. You're closing that area for them. The second part is there was no warrant, no court order, and no emergency. According to this case law, Your Honor, it says everything else is coercion, hence illegal, and hence unconstitutional. It is from my understanding that in this situation, and you don't mention names, you use a generic term for, say, your CPS worker, you said, does any state or federal actor or elected or appointed official from state or federal government have the ability to enter your home if this happens? And if this does happen, it's a he said, she said, where's the documentation? Second off, is it not true? And you can answer a ton of questions. If rights were waived, is it not also requirement to sign away those rights in front of two witnesses, which was never done? Now here's the thing, just because you've written on that, that still establishes case law. Okay. What this does in the middle of your CPS case, and this helps you by doing this and changing jurisdictions, because now those questions are answered whether or not what was done was legal or illegal. Second part of the question, because the first thing that happened or any interaction with this government agency was due to deprivation of rights under the color law. In other words, a felony happened, as described before, Your Honor. Does it not so include, under the color of law, that anything found after that is considered fruit from a poisonous tree? In other words, any evidence found after that crime is inadmissible in court. Is this or is this not true? Do you want to see how fast your case gets dismissed? Because the answers to those, we already know the answers, putting those in because we have the case law. They're going to see that all the state can go, well, the state says, or I have written, no, this is constitutional rights issues. I'm not talking about family court. I'm talking about anybody in general. See how you get past that Rooker versus Feldman? Right. You don't mention that. You go for any government official, is you use it generically. So you got to know how to write. And this is what I expressed to people, even when they were writing into the FBI and a couple other things, is guys, keep it generic. Don't be specific with some things. And that's what attorneys are supposed to know, is when to use the generic term versus a specific term. This is very important when you deal with law or case law, whether we're doing specifics or in general, or as they call in the spirit of the law is another term that you'll hear some of them throw around every once in a while. But to make sure that you're filing this appropriately, now the upper court, then the federal court, sends that ruling, kicks the case, says there's nothing else I can deal with. I'm going to kick it back down to the state court. But the state court now has guidelines and rulings on federal issues. Once you get a copy of it back, the judge gets a copy of it back, and the opposition side gets a copy of it back. Depending on where you're at in the case, they all now have to follow this. So if you've had an illegal entry from the very beginning and you filed even under the lower court case change jurisdiction, said, I had entry without a warrant, hence can we take and do this, and we do this, they have to abide by that. Well, the next thing after you get the answer is you turn around. Once you get this answer, you enforce it, because now you have the weight of the federal courts with you, because now you have that ruling. The judge will then issue a ruling. Yes, according to this, that would be considered an illegal entry. Yes, that goes under the color of law here, here, and here. And yes, because something was, a crime was committed, and hence a constitutional rights, and anything after under the color of law is considered inadmissible in court and considered fruit from a poisonous tree. And you quote and use their jargon. Now that comes down to lower court, says now you must follow these guidelines as you proceed. Now, if something else comes up, we can go back to the federal courts and ask another question as many times as it takes, so long as it's articulated properly.
Now, what happens, Joe? Well, what happens, because we see this multiple times, that you get a ruling in the higher court for the courts on the lower levels of the district courts to follow or to rule properly on this, or to go back and relook at their evidence and rule accordingly, or so on. And these courts are not enforcing, or they're not doing what these higher courts are telling them to do.
Well, now you file a grievance with the higher court that, Your Honor, this was not followed by the other. It was disregarded. Your orders were. That judge doesn't have a point, because now what's enforceable that you can quote also, Your Honor, because of the Chevron doctrine. Oh, wait, I quoted another case law that the lower courts and other specialists do not have the authority they had to make their own decisions, but must follow case law from the higher courts by law, or it's a criminal act. You can ask that question too of all involved in a federal courtroom. When the judge answers it, yes, you then take that was violated by the lower court, report it to that court and the Department of Justice, and you file criminal charges. Just that simple against that judge, because they can't do that. They are required to follow case law now. Before, they got to ignore it because I'm a specialist, is what it's called. That doesn't apply anymore. All those rules they were hiding behind in the courts, that they got away with a lot of shit and a lot of people got fucked, are gone. And that comes down to the Chevron doctrine. There's a new one. I can't think of the name of it. It starts with a B, Bunsen or Brunson. There's a Brunson case that's just came out with developing. There's SEC versus Jarsky that basically ties everything. What it comes down to is when the new administration comes in, the law will come in and this shit will stop. And this is being blown up because you're being softened up because of the exposure of CPS that they are allowing now, because when it comes down that they are going to pop them and shut them completely down, it's going to be an internal thing to where it's going to stop. Because if it doesn't, here's the thing. They know about what we have going on. And if you guys actually, everybody else followed it case by case, they're broke. The people would actually, if anybody that ever dealt with CPS in the past decade listened, filed a simple case, file a simple federal case pro se. It's easy to do. File your stuff everywhere it needs to go. And one, you get your kids back. Two, it holds them all accountable. And then you walk across the street to FBI. Now I want criminal charges. Why? It was all proven over in civil court now. Unfortunately, our cops and everything else, you're going to have to be your own, basically, deputy, sheriff's deputy, and do your own investigation. Build your own fucking case like a fucking DA and present it that particular way, because everything out there is designed to go against you.
Yeah, that's the facts.
And they've got the money. The one thing they can't take from you, your mind, your ability to learn, your ability to be autodidact, the ability to represent yourself. See, when you hire a lawyer, you're basically telling the court, I am inadequate to represent myself pro se. They can throw the shit up there. Well, are you practicing law, or you're doing this or this and that? I don't need to. I'm pro se. I represent myself. I don't have to have an attorney or a thing. And if you're telling me I do, you're now forcing me into a system, a business proposition, which the government cannot force you into doing business. That's illegal. Are you forcing me to do business with the Bar Association? Sounds like you're promoting for them. The government can't promote a business, any of them.
Yeah.
That's why when cops give you your Miranda rights, you have the right to an attorney. You just advertise for the Bar Association. You can sue a cop just on that, because it originally says counsel, and that can be any person. It could be you or me there, and they could follow in and say, hey, I want them to help me or represent me or sit second chair with me to give me information. But they won't let it. They'll let your priest do it.
Yep.
Why? What better person to claim First Amendment rights of freedom of religion than your actual religious leader? Has every authority to declare it. He's a specialist. He has a 501c. Think about that for a minute. But who do they cite on? Organized religion. Oh wait, they run all the homes. Never mind. They wouldn't make money.
No, they got their hands in this too. You know. I'm really starting to see. I'm really starting to see with all this information that's coming out all around everywhere. How, and I've said this for years. I've been doing this for a long time now here, preaching my stuff and doing this 3 years now, I think. And I'll tell you what, it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it's going to take a damn lot for us to conquer the system because it is so much a part of our influxes of every
It's
day.
not
It's
just that, Darren. Understand this as a society, and there's things that have done this. You cannot come from a far left extreme and come back to a middle like you're supposed to, or the place you're supposed to be, which most people consider a far right, which it's not, which is less government, more people, which is the way our Constitution was designed. And I hate to tell everybody that we don't live in a democracy, we live in a constitutional republic.
right.
Anybody that says anything about democracy in this country, you automatically just spoke your ignorance to me. Exactly when you say that, because we don't live under a democracy. That's not the way it is. Unfortunately, the part of the constitutional rights, because it was the majority that won half of these things, half of this shit wouldn't be what it is. But because of the way other things are taken, and there is a balance of a voice because we do hear both sides. And the minority groups do have a voice to where they can be heard, a platform to where they can be heard or entertained. That's a constitutional republic. Under a democracy, you would be drowned out by the voices of basically being told, shut up and go away, which you see is practiced on one side of the aisle, that if they don't get their way, they have a goddamn meltdown or a fucking mental fucking break right there and crying and peeing themselves or whatever it may be. And that's their form of protest. That's not protest to me. That's you're being a child.
Yeah.
Because the idea of our country is to come and have a floor of debate where we can agree or disagree, but the idea is to share information. That's the whole point of debate. Have you considered this? Have you considered this side? Have you considered? And that's where the best thing comes out. But we quit debating. We quit talking to each other. We shut down communication. How does that work in your marriage? How does that work in your job site? How does that work in anything?
Your life, right?
What do you think is going to fall apart?
All of it, everything. You don't communicate, it's over. Game over.
Yep.
And no matter what you're doing in your life.
And they quit talking to the people. You have lobbyists that are just taking senators and House of Representatives, both state and federal level, throwing that money out there and buying votes or influence as these people come in to serve, supposedly public servants that's never held a fucking job in their life, to have any understanding or any life experiences to even vote or represent you. I mean, to be honest with you, some of the worst people in the world that you would think to even have it is find the person that struggles to find a job and put them out there in government. Why? Come up with some solutions for people that they don't like it. What's wrong with the work industry? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? Be part of the change. But instead, you've got high unemployment rates. You've got the Fed, jacking up fucking rates. You've got oil and everything else. I mean, if you really think about it, once all this stuff gets kicking off, you're actually going to enjoy some freedom and some fucking money for a change. Yeah, oil companies are coming back out. The pipeline's coming back up. Fracking's coming back up. And everybody says this, that, and you can argue with me all you want about electric, but until you see what strip mining does for lithiums, you don't lost your damn mind. It's not even worth digging that shit up, to be honest. I mean, it's so harmful, let alone you get it wet, you see what kind of fires that the fire department don't even let them, they just let them burn. Because if you add water to it, it just keeps going. And that's a special foam you got to have out there specifically just for dealing with those fucking cars. Or that particular, the lithium and the way it burns.
Wow.
But
hey, I'm going to answer Tammy's question here. It says Herbert doesn't know Connie Reguli. Herbert, you do know Connie Reguli. We used to have Connie Fridays on our show on CPS Victims Hunting Justice. Connie used to be on every Friday night with us. So you do know who she is, and that's that. And then we have Tammy asking, Chevron is the gas company. But go on that one, Connor. Tell her why it's still important.
Chevron basically went to the federal government under basically both federal and state law, and basically the federal ruling is The court doesn't have the authority because basically the courts are too damn ignorant to make a decision or ruling on it. Hence, that judge says, well, we're going to consider whoever's the specialist then as their word is law. That is so unconstitutional because laws only come from Congress. That's our branch of making laws has to come through Congress. Otherwise, it's null and void, which has been the argument over the IRS, the ATF doing the things they do, FBI. I mean, you name the agency, they've kind of done their own thing and created their own policies, procedures, whatever, regardless of what the Constitution says and what federal case law says. That got overturned, basically saying anybody that has considered themselves like CPS, we are a professional. The courts have no idea what we do. We are deemed professionals. You've even had police saying, well, we're the criminal professionals, even to that point, to write their own policies and procedures and the way they do things. Even when it comes to entering your home, which is supposed to be how they got that through was a lot of crooked ass shit going before the crooked ass judges, because the Constitution should be not even up for debate or discussion. Why only one side of the aisle is the only one that ever takes and tries to challenge the Constitution really makes you question a lot about who they really are. Because here's the idea is that we live under a constitutional republic. We have the joys and freedoms that we have. But the problem is now too many people have manipulated, controlled it, this and that. And now it's getting ready to swing the other way to where people have had enough of it. They're tired of being taxed to death. They're tired of it. They're not having anything in there. They don't even, I mean, they sell off their vacation time instead of spending time with their family and kids because they have to come up with bills or food or anything else. This is not the way it is. You've got two family incomes that have to work and you still can't afford it. When you add it up, you've got two people working out of the house and they're still behind and still putting shit on credit cards. And any of their life savings is gone in 4 years. 4 fucking years, less than 4 years. It's gone.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of shit to it. And when you got everybody robbing every fund that's out there because Congress was too stupid or they did it on purpose to turn around and allow people access to put in like Social Security, here's an opportunity for you to suck on this fund. That wasn't what that money was set aside for. You're fucking robbing people. You realize why Social Security, Granny, and all that, Medicare and all those systems for the elderly and this and that suck ass and they can't live fucking like decent people or even like kings. Yeah. Look at how many millions and billions of dollars that Social Security gives to fucking CPS. I mean, that alone, man, imagine doubling your Social Security. I mean, people need to really think about this. And then you have taxation by local governments because you don't own your property. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, now we're going to tax. Some places do have areas that give you, you know what I'm saying? Give you relief, such as you're retired or you're disabled. We're not going to charge you property tax. Right. Some places have that, others don't. And if they don't like grandma being there no more, they just start increasing the fucking taxes to where she can't fucking afford it.
Right. She can't afford it.
And now she's out of her home that she has raised her children in and everything else. It's not. And let me tell you something. And I'm going to tell you, you know who's the biggest, stealer of homes and dreams and everything else? Your own fucking local government.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, if you didn't have, think about it, your property tax for what? Well, we need streets, we need this, we need that. You're telling me all the fucking revenue everybody else makes and all the big corporations that are in my state can't afford to pay for that shit? And if that's the fucking case, my roads suck.
Yeah, right. My car gets smashed all the time.
You don't pay for the wear and tear on my fucking vehicle, and then you want to tax me on that. Then you want me to have a plate for that. Then I'm not doing commercial shit.
Yep.
I'm freely fucking traveling from here to here. Whatever I use, get the fuck out of the way.
Correct.
And if I reckon, I'm fucking without. The idea is to have insurance to cover the other fucking guy.
Yep.
And then it came up into a thing because people just, well, that's okay. I'll just go get another one. That's when you could afford that shit if you fucking broke. Imagine wrecking a fucking car and turn, that's okay. I'll just go buy a new one. And that's not a big fucking deal.
Yeah. I wish that was how it worked.
Yeah.
But,
well, I'm going to take a break real quick. Darren, I'm going to leave the show to you for just a second. Be right back.
Buddy. Step on out. So yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff. So what he meant by with the Chevron case, what that does, just to break that down for you guys a little bit, is that means that so when you were in court and your judge says, well, you know what, Mrs. So and so, I found that, I believe that you guys are good parents, and I haven't found any of this, but by the recommendation of the state and CPS, they say that your rights should be terminated. So uh, I'm going to go ahead and agree with that, and then use that for my determination. The judges can no longer do that. They have to use their own inferences, their own sets of rules, their own guidelines to rule by, and they cannot use um, the oh my god, I just said the word. They can't let them use their own, like their opinions, if you will, in that manner. No longer can be that way. The judge has to strictly rule on the case by fact, by law, and so on. No more, the references of the state supersedes that of the judge's opinion. No more any of that stuff. That goes for any sort of alphabet group out there. They let you that gives you the freedoms to let the judge make their decision based on what they've heard. Now, does that mean that they're going to actually act like that and rule that way? No, that doesn't, and that's unfortunate. But they're supposed to, and they're supposed to act that way, and these are the rules, and that's where it comes up to you as a full-blooded American citizen to come out and say, listen, this isn't right. I'm not agreeing to this. And this is because of Chevron, we're not allowed to do this any longer. Like, you can't take the opinions and the recommendations of the state to supersede that of the legal judgment. So that's what that stuff means. And this stuff I do believe is retro. So take a good look at this stuff and see if it fits in your case. See if there's something that you can do in your case, like a Rule 60 or something like that. We're not lawyers. Don't forget, this is entertainment purposes only. We're not lawyers. But see if there's a way that you can finagle your paperwork. There's something that they did, a Rule 60, 60B, something that was drawn up during your case, during your trials and so on, that you can get back in this fight with. There's many things that you can go back and keep fighting with. Like Connor was saying earlier, there's the jurisdiction thing. You always have the right to challenge jurisdiction. Always, always, always have a right to challenge jurisdiction. If you're in your case or whatever you're going through at the time, if you challenge jurisdiction, then it stays put and nothing happens, nothing moves. There's no more questioning until the jurisdiction has been determined and until it's brought up to the proper place. So there are those things. But there's multiple levels of jurisdiction. The best thing you can do is research yourself and learn this stuff, because it's definitely a truth that these public pretenders are not going to do it for you. So,
your schooling should consist of two things: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Finding where you want to go with the career path that you want to choose. And after that, being able to defend yourself in the society of everything you are should be a requirement by the time you turn 18, to where you don't need an attorney.
Right.
Unless it's a criminal act. And even then, you should be able to defend yourself.
Right. I agree. I mean, that's kind of like the old common law way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this was all built and based on. Unless there was a crime that was committed that actually injured a party, there was no crime.
No reason to go to court.
Right. That was it. That's what that's based on. And there's a lot of people that are trying to.
And here's the other thing: your state cannot be listed as an injured party. Oh, well, wait. What about my CPS case?
Right.
You can't.
Right.
That's your own state. How
is it that the state keeps becoming the one against you? That's not right. It's, the state versus me. Well, the state's not a living, breathing person. The state is and then that goes right back to there's the business. That's an entity. An entity can't go up against a living, breathing person in the courtroom. It's not supposed to be able to happen. They're in the wrong lane. But they just keep getting away with it. We let them get away with it. So that's what continues to happen. And
it took a courtroom and a list of lawyers and a judge to create this, and then be able to continue to do it again and again and again and again and again. It's what they call the good old boy system.
Yeah. It's just nuts. It's nuts that they've gotten away. And I watched the thing earlier. We're only, I don't even remember who the hell I was watching this about. I kind of feel like it was you that was talking about it, Gunner, but I don't know if it was or not. But literally, we're 3 generations away from where we started from. Like this whole country started in 1776. If you put everybody at 100 years old, we're only 3 generations away. And how far have we become in 3 generations? From 1776 to letting people have their freedoms, to live freely as men and women, to honor themselves as family and all of that stuff, to 3 generations later, we sit here and we fight in courtrooms that these people are taking our kids. We're getting held up at all corners of the life by the police state. I mean, this is just absolutely asinine, and it only took 3 generations of people to get us to this mess up, to this catastrophe. So it just goes to
what it
show.
all was based on? Fear.
Yeah.
The possibility of the people to revolt or do what they wanted to.
Yep. That's it.
Which is technically the constitutional thing that's supposed to happen anyway. If we don't like it, we're supposed to be able to take it over and reinstitute a new one.
Well, that's what's supposed to be going on. The sheriffs are supposed to have a militia in each state. A thriving, up to par militia that's supposed to be up and running and working and in command and all of that. That's not happening. If you say militia in this time and age, they'll call you a terrorist. So
your sheriff should be derived of your local income.
Yeah.
Local people based off of the taxes that are there for the people, and that's only if you break a crime. Anything else was a money-making scheme.
Yep. Yeah, Timmy, Adam Walsh is still alive. So they say. So they say that there's some of this and that, but they also say that the other day they said that what's that guy's Chris Walker?
Yeah.
He says he's still alive too. I don't know how much truth there is in the Adam Walsh thing.
Chevron's still alive. It's still a company. You're going to understand. Companies like Chevron, you think a couple $1 billion is anything? These people are making millions and billions of dollars a day. You think that's a week's worth of their money to pay out some bullshit thing like they've been doing?
Yep. That's the truth, man. But we need to get back, guys. Get back to being Constitution is where we stand. Stand on that, son of a bitch. Let these people know that you do have rights. You know your rights. Get yourself educated in this stuff so that you can. And like Tiffany always says, you need to make sure that you, from the gates, tell them that you have constitutional rights that you want upheld. Because if you don't use them, you will lose them. No doubt about that. That's not a privilege that they're allowing you to have. You need to be loud about it. Let them know that you know what is going on. You know your rights.
See, that's the thing. They don't consider it a right. They consider it a privilege.
Right, like your driver's license is a right, or it's a privilege, not a right. So they say. But yet you look at the old laws, as long as you're not involved in commerce, you can travel wherever you want freely as a man. So it's just the difference in how these laws are looked at, what they're staked at, and what these people have been able to get away with, and what they've been able to enforce on us.
I can tell you how much they've gotten away with just by listening to anybody from the state. Well, state law says there is no state law. Those are codes and statutes. Right. They are not law.
Yep.
That means you just lied to me.
Yep. And codes and statutes are meant to be for the government, not for us. Codes and statutes.
And when you have them look it up, have them look up some of that stuff. Well, it says right here, da 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 da, and this dot da 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 da. I says, okay, see what that says right there? That SC, that stands for code. Code is not law. Let's go to Black's Law Dictionary.
Right. And I highly recommend that everybody has at least one hard copy of the Black's Law Dictionary, because what we're seeing is slowly we're seeing laws and rules and regulations and all of these things. Mostly the laws, though, are changing. The digital age has made it easy for laws to just disappear. So make sure you guys get yourself, they're $100-something. You can get them used for cheaper, but make sure you guys get yourself an actual hard copy of these books, so that you can actually have the law, because if you go to look it up, sometimes you're going to find it's not here on this interweb. It's gone. They don't want you to be able to. They don't want you to be able to have access to this stuff anymore. They don't want you to see what the truth is. So that's what I got to say about that one. But well, Gunner, we got through the Tiff and the Punisher show, so that's good. We did that without Tiff tonight. I know everybody's disappointed that Tiff wasn't here. She's not feeling well, and her husband's sick, and kids are sick, and well, she deserved to have that night off. So she's taking that to rest.
Get you a good tincture out there. Get you a hot toddy. It's about that time.
Yeah, hell yeah, a little honey and some whiskey, and she'll be just fine. That's what she needs. She's in Virginia. They got that stuff up there, right? That old, what they got over there, moonshine and stuff over there in Virginia, right?
Well, a little bit. I mean, Virginia's not so much.
Hey, also, anybody that's listening, if you guys could get in touch with us, we need people that are involved in North Carolina, people that are actual lawyers, attorneys, people that are fighting that fight. I'm getting a lot of emails for people looking for assistance in North Carolina. So if you know anybody that's in North Carolina that's representing these families, if you can email us at cpsvhuntingjustice@gmail.com, that would be really cool, because we need to find some people. That's the other reason I called you earlier, Gunner. I had a couple of emails today asking for direction in North Carolina. And I know if you had any references.
Right now, a lot of it's wiped out. They're going to have to go to the nearest larger city if they want to do it. I mean, basically, for what they're dealing with, I'm going to, like I told a lot of them over there, I said, I can put it to you this way. Stay strapped or get clapped. I'm sorry, but a group of individuals shows up to steal kids and surrounded by the militia or even the parents.
Yeah.
It's my ass. You don't have the right.
Yeah.
You don't.
You know, as far
as kids or anything else, you want to help me. Now, that goes to show you exactly what CPS does. They ain't there to help families.
No.
They're there to steal children.
Yep. Go talk to your sheriff.
So they would have been there. They would have been there with anything pediatric whatsoever would have been there. They should have had a trailer there with a response team just with stuff with kids, with coloring books or this or that, making sure their needs were met and keeping families together. And that is not what fucking happened at all. They came in, they took the first load out, and I'll be honest, this is my opinion. You can talk whatever else. They took a whole plane load of them and called those kids missing. They disappeared.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the first part. That's why they were hunting that motherfucker over there. That they wanted to find out who it was that was running around with a quote unquote gun that was close to the airport and all this. And what he reported was they were stealing fucking kids through private contractors. Yep. And not a fucking thing was done about it. No investigation, no nothing. Now all those kids are considered just, lost in the storm.
Yeah.
MIA.
And then stay tuned for tonight's show, because I got some bombshell stuff that I'm going to drop that I've been researching these past few days. It's going to trick your mind, you guys. This what I'm going to show you guys tonight at the 9 o'clock show. It's going to twist your brain. It's going to piss you off like no tomorrow. And it's going to be the reality of what CPS is. This person I've been reaching out to, I just discovered them. I've been reaching out to them, and it's their story. And wait till you guys see this at the 9 o'clock show. So I suggest share tonight's show. Get people on here to watch this, because it's going to blow your mind, this story. And if any doubt that you have about what Gunner just said will be completely wiped away when you hear the story of what this person has to say. So make sure you guys are here in another hour for the CPS Victims Hunting Justice show. Gunner, are you going to join us for that one too tonight?
I believe I should be able to get on there. Shouldn't be an issue.
Right on. Well, if that's the case,
I guess we're gonna have to see Vinny over there. I ain't seen Vinny's awful quiet. I know he's out there. Stalker.
Vinny was already bashing us about having to take old people naps. So we might have to do that here. We might want to get off the air so we could have some old people naps done.
Listen, leave my naps alone. They may be herbally infused.
Man, ain't nothing better than a nap. I'll tell you. I will tell you.
Listen, anytime I have less to deal with the amount of stupid I have to encounter, I love all you guys. But I also know that I have a very short tolerance for bullshit, horseshit, and stupidity. And just a few minutes out in public is about all it fucking takes before you're just overloaded with the amount of ignorance our
Yeah,
society has been tricked into believing is their reality, and they're
yeah.
clueless.
And the
And
worst part about waking up from a nap is, Gunner, this bullshit's still there.
there's the beauty of it too. Even if I do take my nap and unplug for a while, it's still going to be there when I wake the fuck up.
All right, everybody. We'll see you all here in 45 minutes or so. Me and Gunner are going to go take a nap. Check y'all later on.
In 1776, brave men put up a fight, mowing down redcoats, they wanted freedom. They had to fight, and now we take the sacrifice in vain. They loaded their muskets, fired them one by one. That's why we have the freedom to own a gun, but we are blowing it. These freedoms were created by those before us. They were to be something that stays. But now things are so corrupted, they're taking our rights away. Hey, Uncle Sam, where did you go? I called Washington today, but nobody's home. We all want to stand for our freedom, but nobody wants to do it today. Can't you see time is a waste and the Constitution we love is fading? Make no tread on the reality, or the USA will be the next casualty. We are here for freedom, those we will protect. Unite for the values we cherish, but watch everything perish. Our men have fought for our freedoms, many women have too. Their blood spilled upon the ground, with the news many frown. They paid a price that many won't pay, now we are letting the cause fade away. The graves are being neglected by the actions of so many deceptive. The freedoms they fought for in every world war, conflict or mission, so many stayed behind signing petitions, while those away dying were there to protect them. It's time to wake up in the USA. We are all slipping away into the darkness we once ran from. It's getting worse every day. Now they are taking our children more and more every day. No soldier ever fought for taking our children away. This is not why they bled for our freedom. They didn't die for some cheap pay. We all need to come together, fight this corruption, and it starts today. We need to wake up America, go back to parades, remember true family values, laugh again as children play. These are the things we fought for, 200 years strong, but now we're losing all of this. Don't tread on me does exist. So rise up and be strong. We don't have to go along. We need to push back now, like our forefathers did. It's time to bring back the way it was, when families lived together, all that mattered was love. It's not always easy to take back what they have grabbed. With all of us together we can do it, two loving children and mom and dad. This is our country, it's called USA. So many have fallen, say don't tread on me today. It's time to wake up in the USA. We are all slipping away into the darkness we once ran from. It's getting worse every